Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello, and welcome to this week's fun educational show. I am Janet Lewis.
And just because I said something about exciting, she won't say that anymore. So, men, there is a time to keep your mouth shut, and that's usually most of the time.
Oh, we have had such a response from you guys. We are Green Wisdom Health, by the way, home of the low-cost lab work. In case you're wondering who we are, coming to you, talking to you. We are here to educate you about your health, and many of you have many questions about your health, and that's where I was going with this. We want to thank everyone for asking all these questions about their health, because it's prompted Dr. Lewis to read more, which he already does anyway. So
I got bags under my eyes. I think that's a hormonal issue. I hope my prostate's not as swollen as my eyes.
We literally, you should see his desk. He's got, there must be 10 books open that's sitting around with tons of Post-it notes in every one of them. I can't keep him in Post-it notes because he marks every page like we do in the Bible where we're highlighting everything. He does that with his health books. But this week's show is going to be fun and entertaining because we are going to talk about hormones, men and women's, because we've actually had men asking about theirs as well. It's not just for you ladies. We're going to talk about the thyroid connection to these hormones, and we're going to discuss swollen prostates because I know that all fits together. Anyway, Dr. Lewis, do you want to start us off with what you'd like people to know? And then we will make sure we get to everyone's question that they've asked and try to come up with a very educated answer for you.
Well, I'm just going to give an overview of the questions. We'll get more into them. Alice said, how about hormones and thyroid, or how about how hormones and thyroid are related? Then there was one I just really, really wanted to get to. Sherry says, thyroid, menopause, and weight loss. Yeah, that's when a man should shut up, not say anything. Tricia, oh, God bless you. You're the funniest thing on the face of the earth. Why do some people stink when they sweat and others don't? Thanks, Tricia.
I don't know where that fits into our hormone thing, but we'll
I've got an answer to that. So on the Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis, which I invite all of you to join. I told Tricia
on Facebook, before, if you don't know what he's talking about, he does have a closed Facebook group called Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. So if you would like to get in on these questions and ask them also.
Ask them?
Yeah, I know. I already.
Lizzie
Texas.
Borden.
Okay. You can ask questions on there, and we will address them in the following week's podcast.
Yeah, and like I said earlier on previous podcasts, I don't normally talk this fast, but I have to, trying to get this in. So when Tricia asked that about stinking, I said, you've gone from preaching to getting personal there, Tricia. Here's one from Jonathan. He's hilarious. He said, I know you said for the ladies on this one, but here's a title for the prostate podcast. Enlarged prostate. Gotta go, can't wait. Thanks, Jonathan. That's cute.
That might work for women too, some though. It's not just a man's prostate that has that issue sometime.
And Kelly wants to know about PCOS, which I'm going to get briefly into because that could be a long, long show.
So kind of tell us what's going on with the hormone situation. Why are we having so many hormonal issues? I know back in the day, you did not see all of these places around town that were offering pellets and creams and things. That just wasn't an issue, and now it's all over the place. So what exactly is causing it? What can we do about it? Is there a healthy alternative? Where do we go? Yeah,
it's the plastics and phthalates that I talk about that mimic estrogen, and you have to. And I hear this every day, but I eat good. No, you don't. You may eat better than the rest of the population, but you cannot eat good because even organic's not as nutrient dense enough to have enough nutrition for your body to detoxify. So, yeah, try to eat better. But
so basically, is having a thyroid issue an indicator, or how do you know you have a thyroid issue? I guess when the doctor tells you don't, and you know something's not right. How is that related to the rest of the hormones? Is there a tie between those two?
Yeah, I've said this about the liver, but it's probably a little bit more true about the thyroid. If mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And the thyroid is just getting bombarded with bromine, fluorine, and chlorine, which takes the place of iodine. And I know that gets controversial if you have Hashimoto's. Estrogen dominance, though, makes you go into a progesterone deficiency. And we see that about 99 times out of 100. And I try to get most women to at least once to test their hormones, even if they don't have any kind of signs and symptoms of a hormonal imbalance. Men, we have just added a new panel for an expanded lab panel, and it's Dr. Lewis's low T panel, or I think that's what we're going to name it. That's going to even test your estrogen or estradiol and progesterone, which is really, really important. But the symptoms of a low thyroid, which is the majority of the thyroid problems, and I won't go through all of them because it's way too long, can be migraine, muscle pain, your husband doesn't look good to you anymore, and reduced ability to sweat, Tricia. So if you're sweating, your thyroid's probably doing better. Hair loss or thinning on the head, and that can be male or female. We're getting some pretty good results now with people that are sticking with it and getting better, thicker hair. Constipation, depression, disturbed sleep patterns, but it has a lot to do with the difficulty or inability to lose weight, infertility, and heavy menstrual flow. And that was where I was trying to go, because it does mess with other hormones. And I'm trying not to go down the rabbit trail for Dr. Amanda. She's cute. She comes over here and picks on me. So, yeah, I've gone down a rabbit trail, Janet. Get me out. I got too much to talk about.
Okay. Well, I think we need to explain to the audience and people that are new listening, when you talk about the thyroid, are you talking about a TSH? Is that what you're referring to as far as, is that on a lab? Is that something they're seeing? Can you explain a little bit about what is different about the way you look at a thyroid versus the way the doctors look at it? And for the people out there that have lost hope and they're looking, and they know they don't feel good and they're overweight and their hair is falling out and they've got thin eyebrows and
not a thin waist.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that wrong, guys?
Yes. And irregular menstrual cycles and that kind of thing. What are we looking for on lab? What are you running on lab, and what are you looking for? You
don't want to just rely on TSH because that is just the signal from the pituitary in the brain. And normally, most of the time, if your thyroid's working good, the TSH will go on the low end of the range, which usually is a 0.4 to a 4.5. You want it to be about a 1.5 or below, and that does vary depending on the patient, depending on, if you're on thyroid meds. The main thing is free T3, although we like to look for T4. It needs to be in the middle to high range, and then we can help T4 convert to T3. But, you kind of want to look at all of it as a big picture, and I like T3 uptake because usually the higher it is, the better, and usually the lower it is, the more estrogen dominant or your own birth control pills that's, causing some of that hormone replacement therapy. And I'm not against anything the medical profession does because I think they do a really good job in a lot of areas. But why are we not healthy? And that's another thing. It just agitates me. People say, but I research on Google. And I roll my eyes and say, oh, okay, this one's not going to get well. And I just talked to a sweet lady that's my age, and she says, yeah, my daughter thinks she's in control, and she's driving me and my husband nuts, and he doesn't want to go get his cancer treatment just because she's pushing him. Well, Google can get you so full of information but not understanding. So please be careful, and I suggest you go to somebody that you can trust for some of these answers, and let them have the final say. But you have to have that gut feeling of trust. Just to talk about women's hormones in general, and I know I've read entire books about how estrogen will make you young, rich, and good looking and make you feel better. And I understand that. If you and your doctor decides to do that, that's great. But you've got to understand that estrogen supplementation increases your risk for breast cancer heart disease, and other health problems.
And what is the first thing they give women that are going through menopause is estrogen, because it makes them feel great.
For a little while.
And it does. And we see it on lab because, they'll come in here and it's like, well, their estrogen's nothing. And then they'll go get hormone replacement therapy. And they come in and go, oh my gosh, I feel so good. It's like I'm back again. And I'm like, okay. About 3 months into it, they come back again and say, I don't know if I'm going to take that next round. I've had 2 rounds of the pellets now, and I'm beginning to think that they're not working as well as they did the first time.
We see women with more testosterone than I have.
Yes, and so we run their lab again, and they're at an increased risk of heart attack and stroke. They've begun to gain weight, which is a big no-no for women. That is what we do not want.
Yeah, and that's
we
when
can feel horrible and be thin, but we do not want to be happy and fat.
Yeah, and men should never say anything about that. You'll get your head chewed off.
That's right. And
ouch.
And it's still got the problem. So it's not that you're not making those hormones anymore. So the best thing that we give people for that is to try to get them to, we try to bring out what they have left, and we supplement with natural compounds. And we always stay away from estrogen. The only time we ever use an estrogen product, we have something called an E3 cream that's the lowest dose possible.
That's for you that have dry, painful intercourse.
That's right.
It's cut to the chase.
Yeah, and it's not for intercourse. It's just to help start making that not so dry. But as you do more of our supplements, you actually don't need that anymore. So that's a short-term, temporary, symptomatic fix. The things that we use for it is things like DIM. The Estrogen is a huge one because it goes in and gobbles up all those bad estrogens, and it helps balance out the hormones. We have one for the menopausal symptoms now that we're really thrilled about. It's called FemQuil. It's FemQuil.
We've just gotten it, and it's already a big hit.
Yes, it's of course women keep telling us, well, we have hot flashes, but it actually supports and balances the female hormone cycle. It eases symptoms associated with PMS and menopause, and it helps promote estrogen detoxification. That is an important one because that's the problem. And it also provides antioxidant activity and cellular support. So that's something you can take without lab. You don't have to have lab to do that. It's just if you're suffering from PMS or any kind of
Ben, wrap it in a red ribbon, put it in the middle of a bunch of chocolates.
Are you saying it helps with sex drive? I guess that would come back if you had that balance. I'm sorry, I'm a little slow. I should get to the chase, cut to the chase.
So for the women that it may be from the thyroid itself, or it may be, generally it's a progesterone deficiency, which is made for the most part in the ovaries and somewhat in the adrenal glands. But if you have these dysfunctions like PMS and depression, the decreased libido, sorry, Janet, had to put that in there, fibrocystic breast, food cravings, uterine fibroids, irregular and excessive bleeding, endometriosis, and there was a question about PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. That's usually a sugar handling problem, but there is plenty of research that says that's because you're also full of the plastics and pesticides and phthalates that cause you to be less likely to handle sugar correctly. And we tell you to get off sugar and simple carbs anyway.
Pre-diabetic symptoms.
Yep.
Is usually what that is. But usually when they have that, they also will have painful menstrual cycles. And we actually have one for those girls out there, too. I know we're talking about menopause a lot, but there are a lot of young ladies out there listening that have painful menstrual cycles. And it's called Gabinol. It's Gabanol because it helps promote muscle relaxation.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yes. And it eases, it helps alleviate exercise-related muscle pain.
And the GABA in it, guys, will make you look better. So, put that in the package, surround it with chocolates.
Okay. Everything's going into chocolate today. So,
I'm sorry.
He is the woman in our relationship. He loves the chocolate and I don't. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, she's a strange woman. That's what makes her special.
So anyway, make sure the thyroid's balanced, because if it's not, you're going to have problems with all of those things that Dr. Lewis talked about. You want to make it actually, one of the first signs of having a thyroid imbalance is that you don't go to the bathroom right. You don't digest your food correctly. And that's one of the very first things that we hear when someone gets their thyroid working. They're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to the bathroom more often than I ever have before. And it's because
feels good, doesn't it?
Yes, because the thyroid has sped up your metabolism and digestion.
Some of the brain fog went away because you're not swimming in your own excrement, and it's flushed out, so you can think more clearly.
Yep. So Alice B., we hope you're enjoying this segment on the hormones and thyroid and how it's connected.
And you got to think about your hypothalamus and your adrenal glands, as well as your pituitary and thyroid. And we do have supplements for that too.
And then the other question was from Sherry R. She wanted to know more about why it was so hard to lose weight and when they're postmenopausal.
Because you got low testosterone to start with. You've got a bad digestion, bad gut, not enough probiotics in it, low vitamin D. You got parasites, which is almost always yeast. I tell people that the parasites are not your teenagers. I know it seems that way, but sometimes it's something different.
So basically, they're craving more bad stuff because of yeast, virus, that type stuff that's in the body that takes over and craves it and wants more of it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And one way to tell if you have some of that, we're coming up here on the full moon. When you have the full moon come around, it seems that you crave more of that kind of stuff if you need to kill off parasitic.
Yeah, agitation gets a little bit more acute, and it's like, well, if you feel agitated and squirmy and wormy, oh, we've done that show. Never mind.
And if you're like, and I'm not picking on it because it's Texas, but here in Texas, we have a lot of Mexican food. And if
I love it.
Yes, and if it seems to be you're wanting a bunch of that during the time of the full moon, it could be that you have a lot of yeast.
Yeah. Feeding the parasitos, or I can't speak Spanish, but I know cerveza. Does that count?
Which also feeds yeast.
Mucho frio cerveza. I got lost in Mexico. I told them, I said, I know chicken and beer. We're good.
But the things that Dr. Lewis was talking about, the probiotics actually kill the yeast back down. There's something called Parashield that we use. There's one called Candicid Forte because you take less pills of it, but they're good at detoxifying. They're good at helping you not crave bad things. They're good at weight loss because you're not eating the bad things. So, weight loss is hard for being postmenopausal. A lot of it's because you are estrogen dominant. I will tell you that
high estrogen, I got to throw this in. Okay. High estrogen can mess up your thyroid. So is it thyroid messing up your estrogen, or the other way? It can go both ways.
Well,
Sorry,
again,
Janet.
That goes back to the product I think that every woman should be taking, even a young woman should be taking, and it's Estrogen, because it's it's going in there and unbinding all of the bad estrogens and helping you lose weight. It actually gets your shape back to the way it was when you were younger.
Men should take it too, because that would help decrease the propensity toward swollen prostate.
So if women can tell that their shirts are not fitting like they used to through the back, like you're thicker than what you used to be, through the middle, your hips are bigger than what they used to be, that's an estrogen problem, because the body doesn't know what to do with it, so it just stores it as fat, and those are safe places to put it.
And fat cells actually make estrogen, so I know fat's an offensive word, so those men that are fluffier have lower testosterone because you have fat cells that are actually creating estrogen, not just an estrogen receptor.
So DIM is a great thing for that. For young women, one reason or one way you can tell if you need it is because of irregular menstrual cycles. And I know they're giving you things now to not have a menstrual cycle for like 7 months, a year or something. Oh, Lord, run. Just run from it. Because it's just making everything down the road harder for you. Whenever you get older, you're going to have all kind of health problems because of that, because that's not a normal thing, even though that's a great idea for women at that age. But it actually does create a lot of the things we're talking about down the road that's very hard to reverse at that point. But DIM will actually go in there and make that be right again. So if you're having painful menstrual cycles and they're coming too frequently or not, you can't count them on the month. If they don't arrive within 28 days again the next month, DIM is a big thing to help balance that back out. And it's also something great for women that are trying to conceive. So if you're having conception problems, that is another problem of estrogen being too high and not balanced. So hopefully y'all learned something about balancing those. And I'm going to let Dr. Lewis take this because he just loves these questions that are different. And that did come from Tricia M. She wants to know why some people stink when they sweat and others do not.
How close are you getting to their armpits, Tricia?
Of course, that could be my colon story.
Well, there's actually studies that said women found that men that ate vegetables smelled better than men that ate a lot of meat. And then I actually took a big seminar one time that said vegans start stinking because, that's not really a healthy way to eat. And I know I treat dozens and dozens and dozens of vegans. I'm not trying to be judgmental, but people that eat a lot of meat do stink. Part of it is it's what the bacteria do with what you're sweating out, and the other part of it is you may have the wrong bacteria there. So then there's when you get afraid, very, very stressed, then sometimes that will tend to be more odor filled. So I think if you eat more vegetables, that's going to alkalize the body, give you more minerals, and it will stink less and less. So if you're healthy, you really won't have that kind of body odor. Sometimes it's heavy metals. I can smell some people, sometimes their breath, and it'll be metallic, but you put them on a cleanse, after a while it begins to, the odor changes, and you can smell different things if you pay attention. And the
ones with the big bellies, they seem to smell a little bit more. Those big round bellies that aren't dumping because they're so full of,
they're more yeasty.
Well, they're not eliminating like they should.
Right.
So their belly is just getting bigger and bigger. So that all starts coming back through the skin. So they need to make sure their colon is going every time they eat a meal.
Same thing with the breath, though. If you have bad breath, that's, partially the probiotics that are lacking in the mouth, which is the salvarius strain, which is Lactobacillus salvarius or Streptococcus salvarius. You can re-inoculate that. We do that a lot.
Okay, now the men have been waiting very patiently to hear about prostate health. So thank you, men, for going through this whole show and listening about women again.
We have not been patient because, as Jonathan said, enlarged prostate, gotta go, can't wait.
Exactly.
I like that, Jonathan. You're awesome.
So we've got questions from Jonathan that wants to know about it also, because he says he's on Flomax. And an enlarged prostate. He's having severe congestion as a side effect. Do we have any alternatives to this medicine? And can you tell us what's going on with prostate?
Yeah, we have natural aromatase inhibitors, and that is normally, in America we use a lot of saw palmetto, and there is a difference in the quality of some of the saw palmetto you get, and that's a really good thing. But that's a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. And then you want something that has stinging nettles root, which is really, really good. And you've got to understand that when I'm talking about prostate, these things also help you unbind the testosterone you have. Say if you have 400 testosterone, you only have 50 of it unbound. That's all you can use is 50. So it helps unbind it too.
Stinging nettles is really good. We have it by itself as nettles also, and it's really great for women's urinary tract things too. So
yes.
not just for men. So that's good.
And then pygeum bark extract, that really comes from Africa. A lot of these better companies will source it from all over the world and get the better stuff. The natives actually use this to support urinary tract health, and that has something to do with the lipoxygenase enzyme. Some of this stuff is, I tell people, I am not a biochemist, don't want to be, don't like chemistry. I was on a podcast the other day with a pharmacist, and she was asking me chemistry. I said, oh, good Lord, you know more about chemistry than I do, but here's the short answer. And she was like, oh my God. So yeah, we have that, and then formula should always contain zinc, selenium, and copper, and that's really good for prostate, but it's also good for being anti-cancer and immune system boosting too. And almost nobody gets enough of these, and these minerals are being displaced by cadmium, mercury, aluminum, lead, that kind of thing. So,
what's the name of that product again that you were talking about that had all of that in there?
I've got memory pills, but I don't remember to take it. It's Prostatrol Forte. And folks, prostate does not have two R's in it. It's prostate. So Prostatrol Forte, that's what I take. It says 1 a day. I take 2. But, by taking 2, I don't have to get up in the middle of the night to go tinkle. And that's worth a lot, a little extra deeper sleep.
And the Estrogen also helps that as well, correct?
Every man should take that. But the Prostatrol Forte also helps with testosterone and unbinding testosterone. So that's really a smart thing to do. So I'm gonna get off this in just a second. But if you started to gain weight and problems urinating, but men, if you have breast enlargement, you've created what you've been thinking about all these years, I think. But no, if you have breast enlargement, the man boobs, Janet shook her head like, I can't believe you said that.
Yes,
folks,
I can believe he says that.
Well, hey, I'm having a good day. I'm thinking about chocolate, so maybe I can manifest it.
Maybe you can have men boobs too.
Mine are pretty good. I look pretty good for 168, 170 pounds. Yeah, that's an estrogen thing. So yeah, get on this Prostatol Forte. It's really a good thing. But that's what I take, and I can take anything. So,
well, and if you're wondering, hey, I don't know if I have problems with all this. I don't know if the thyroid's right. I don't know, what's going on. I only know what my doctor told me is going on. And many times that lab was not very thorough. We do offer low-cost lab work for those of you that do not know what we do, which I can't believe you don't by now. But the new listeners out there, I would tell you, if you're going to find out what's happening, the best thing to do with the hormones and everything we discussed today, you need to see what your hormones are doing. Probably the best panel that we have for that is our comprehensive plus female hormone. We've got that one, or either the comprehensive plus male hormone. They are on our website. When you go on our website, you want to make sure that you pick the ones that start with GWH. And the one for female is GWH1, and the one for male is GWH2. And the reason for that is that it includes Dr. Lewis's very thorough consultation with you. He actually calls you and talks to you and tells you what's happening with your lab. Or now we offer Zoom, where you can see him in person. So
yeah, you can see my mustache.
Whichever way you like to have it. If you would like to look at him and it's like you're virtually sitting in the room with him, we offer that as well. That comes with it. We give you a functional medicine report, and we give you a recommended supplement sheet of what he is suggesting you take to help correct the problems. Because with our supplements, it's not like going down the road and just buying them in a store of something we've mentioned. All of our supplements are pharmaceutical grade, which means they're actually 3 to 5 times stronger,
more absorbable,
and pure and absorbable than what you're buying over the counter. So there is a difference. And for those of you that are going blah, 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 no, there's not. Yes, there is, because we see it on lab, because we see people that try to take what we've given them and they buy the cheapo stuff and they say, hey, I've been doing just what you said. I said,
doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not moving your lab numbers. You can keep taking it all day long, but it's actually not helping anything on your lab. So yes, there is a difference.
I'd like to make a quick mention, like when Jonathan finished his question, he said, I really appreciate all that you do. Thank you. And I just talked to a lady up in Oregon that was actually referred out of Texas from Wilson. Is the one that referred this lady. Share the podcast, because the more you help other people get well, the more God's going to bless you with better health. And let's take this tense nation and make it into something that's healthy and happy and having a good time. Because now, I'm so sorry, but I've gotten so busy. I've decided, you've got weeds and flowers, and if you're a weed and a pain in the butt, I spend my time with flowers. So thank you, Jonathan, for voicing your appreciation.
Blooming. Thank you for blooming.
Yeah, and then you got people like Lewis, and he just keeps ordering. I never talk to him. So, Lewis, you know who you are. I think you're out of Indiana. Call me. I miss you. But, the more joy you give, the more joy and health you're going to get back. So, let's try to be the difference that we want to see in America.
I like that. And on that note, we are going to wish you well for another week. And like I said, go to Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis on Facebook. Send him a friend request. He will accept it. And then you can start getting in on the conversations too. You guys have a blessed week.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You are only one step away from a life worth living.